Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another in-depth summary and review. Today we're looking at some real business classics that you guys sent our way.
Oh, yeah.
Good to Great, The Lean Startup, Blue Ocean Strategy, Atomic Habits, and
Oh,
The E-Myth Revisited.
quite the lineup.
Yeah, so think of it this way. We're prepping for a big 2025 strategy meeting,
Okay.
and these books are our secret weapons.
I like that.
Yeah,
A powerful arsenal of ideas for sure.
for sure. Each of these books has really, had an impact on the way people think about business, and they're still relevant today.
Oh, absolutely.
So to start things off, let's jump into Jim Collins' Good to Great, and I'm really interested by the Flywheel Effect.
Okay.
It's not about, like a sudden breakthrough, but more about like building up momentum
Yeah.
through consistent action.
Right. It's like pushing a giant flywheel, you
Okay.
know? At first it takes a ton of effort just to get it to move at all, but every push that you give it, no matter how small, it adds momentum.
Uh-huh.
And eventually that wheel is spinning so fast that it almost seems to move on its own. And that's what Collins says. Great companies, do they achieve this self-reinforcing cycle of success?
Okay, so that analogy makes sense, but what does that look like in practice? I mean, does the book give any concrete examples of companies using the flywheel effect?
Oh, definitely. One example that Collins talks about is this retail company that really just focused on improving its customer service.
Okay.
It wasn't some flashy marketing thing or anything, but
Hmm.
over time, that consistent positive experience really built customer loyalty and incredible word of mouth momentum.
So instead of chasing quick wins, they focus on building a system for sustainable growth. I mean, it makes you think about, what's the one key push that could start a flywheel for you?
Yeah,
Like, what's one small thing you can do consistently that would get that going?
that's a great question to think about. And speaking of consistent action, that leads perfectly into our next book, Eric Ries, The Lean Startup.
Oh, yeah. This one's all about speed and agility in business.
Hmm.
And it introduces this concept of the build, measure, learn loop,
Yes.
which seems super relevant in today's fast-paced world.
Oh, absolutely. The idea is that you don't have to spend years perfecting a product before you even know if there's a market for it.
What?
Instead, you start with what's called a minimum viable product, or MVP.
Okay.
It's like the simplest version of what you can test just to get feedback quickly.
So instead of diving in head first, you're kind of just dipping your toes in testing the waters, and then you iterate based on what you learn.
Exactly.
But how do you actually measure and learn in this loop? I mean, does the book give specific tools or frameworks?
Ruiz really gets into using data to validate your assumptions.
Okay.
And that could be anything from, analyzing website traffic to doing customer interviews.
Gotcha.
The point is to gather real-world feedback as fast as you can,
Yeah.
and then use that to adjust your product or, even pivot to a totally different direction if you need to.
That's a really fascinating approach, especially when things change so quickly. And speaking of adapting to change, we want to remind you to like this video and subscribe to Audiobooks Quiver on YouTube so you don't miss out on more great in-depth summary and review like this. Now let's talk about a strategy that really encourages you to think outside the box, Blue Ocean Strategy.
This book challenges the idea that you have to compete head-to-head in a crowded market,
Okay.
what they call the red ocean,
Uh-huh.
full of sharks fighting over the same scraps.
Oh, yeah.
Instead, it says you should create your own market space, a blue ocean,
Yeah.
where you can thrive without all that competition.
Okay, I like that. But how do you actually create a blue ocean? Does the book have any real-world examples?
One of the best examples is Cirque du Soleil. They completely reinvented the circus.
Wow.
They got rid of the animal acts and focused on artistry and theatricality for a more sophisticated audience.
Wait, are we talking about the one with like the incredible acrobatics and costumes?
That's the one. By taking things from theater, they made a whole new category of entertainment that appeals to adults and families who are willing to pay more for that unique experience.
Okay.
They got differentiation and higher prices, which is like the opposite of the traditional circus.
That's really smart. They basically made their own niche by challenging the assumptions of their own industry. It makes you wonder how many other blue oceans are out there just waiting to be discovered.
Right.
We'll get into more examples later in the show, like Nintendo's Wii and Curve's Fitness.
Those are great examples of shaking up an industry.
For sure. But for now, let's switch gears to a book about personal transformation, Atomic Habits.
Okay.
All right, I'm all about personal growth.
What does Atomic Habits tell us about getting amazing results?
It focuses on the power of small changes made over time.
Okay.
James Clear says we don't have to make huge changes overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, it's these tiny 1% improvements that can lead to incredible outcomes when you do them consistently.
So like atoms, they're these tiny building blocks that can create something much bigger. Exactly.
But how do you stay motivated when those small changes don't seem to be making a difference? We've all hit that point where you're working hard, but not seeing results. It can be so discouraging.
That's one of the big challenges the book addresses.
Okay.
Claire says that when you hit those plateaus, you're actually building the foundation for future success.
Okay.
It's like planting a seed.
Uh-huh.
You don't see anything on the surface for a while, but the roots are growing underground, getting stronger.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So how do we get through those plateaus and make those small changes last? I mean,
Yeah.
are there any practical strategies that the book gives?
One of the big takeaways is to build systems instead of just setting goals.
Okay.
It's about making an environment and routines that support the habits you want to build.
Right. It's not enough to say, I want to exercise more.
Yeah.
You have to create a system that makes it easy and fun to exercise regularly, like maybe laying out your workout clothes the night before or finding a workout buddy.
Yeah, actually, it's about making the good choices the easy choices. And speaking of making things easy, don't forget to hit that like button and turn on notifications for Audiobooks Quiver so you don't miss any of our in-depth summary and review. We've got a lot more great insights to share from these awesome books.
We do.
And when it comes to systems thinking, there's no better book than The E-Myth Revisited.
Ah, yes. This one really challenges what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. Did it say something about business owners balancing 3 different personalities?
That's right. Gerber talks about the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur as the 3 key personalities in any business owner.
Okay.
The technician loves the hands-on work, actually doing stuff.
Yeah,
The manager loves order, process, and predictability.
makes sense.
And the entrepreneur is the visionary, always looking for opportunities and driving growth.
Okay. I can see how all 3 are important, but most of us are probably drawn to one more than the others. Like, I know I'm more of a technician. I always want to jump in and get my hands dirty. What's the problem with just focusing on one?
That's where the E-myth comes in. It's this myth that if you're good at the technical work, you'll automatically be a good business owner.
Okay.
Gerber argues that so many entrepreneurs get stuck just being the technician working in the business instead of on it.
It's like that classic image of a baker who's so busy baking pies, they never think about how to improve their operations or market their products or build a business that can run without them.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to develop all 3 personalities, or at least bring in people who are good at the things you're not.
Makes sense.
A successful business needs that balance of technical skill, managerial discipline, and entrepreneurial vision.
So it's not just about working hard, it's about working smart, having systems, and thinking about the bigger picture. That actually reminds me of Blue Ocean strategy and how it encourages us to challenge the way our industry works.
Absolutely. Let's go back to that and look at how Nintendo was so successful with the Wii.
Yeah, the Wii was such a game changer. I feel like everyone had one, even people who didn't usually play video games.
That was the genius of it. Instead of trying to compete with Sony and Microsoft for those hardcore gamers, Nintendo made a whole new market by appealing to families and casual gamers.
Didn't they do that by focusing on motion controls?
Exactly. They got rid of all those complex buttons and fancy graphics that had become standard and just focused on making gaming easy and fun for everyone.
It was all about movement and having fun. A totally different approach from all the realistic and often violent games that were popular back then. It made gaming a social thing again.
Right, and by using motion controls, they invented a whole new way to play games. It's a perfect example of raising something above the industry standard, one of the things they talk about in the Blue Ocean strategy framework.
So Nintendo created a blue ocean by changing the rules of the gaming industry. Do they talk about any other companies that have done something similar?
Another great example is Curves Fitness.
Oh, yeah.
They totally disrupted the traditional gym model, which was often scary and expensive, especially for women.
Right Curves made it much simpler and easier, focusing on a quick 30-minute circuit training workout with those hydraulic machines. It was perfect for women who wanted a quick workout in a friendly environment.
Exactly. They got rid of all the complicated stuff and high prices of regular gyms and made it more about community by having a supportive, women-only space.
It's a great example of creating a blue ocean by really understanding what a specific group of people need.
Yeah,
It makes you wonder what other industries are ready for a shakeup like that.
for sure. And speaking of shaking things up, let's go back to Atomic Habits and that habit loop idea. It's all about those small changes we make over time.
Right. But like we said before, sometimes those small changes don't feel like enough, especially when you're stuck in that place where you're working hard, but not seeing results.
One way to break through those plateaus is to make your habits as easy and enjoyable as possible.
Okay.
Clear talks about making the cue obvious, the craving attractive, the response easy, and the reward satisfying.
Okay, break that down for
Yeah.
me. So like if I want to start writing every morning, I could make the cue obvious by putting my notebook and pen on my desk the night before.
Right.
And I can make the craving attractive by choosing a writing prompt that really interests me.
Exactly.
And to make the response easy,
Yeah.
I could just commit to writing for 15 minutes even if I don't feel inspired.
Yeah.
And the reward could be something simple, like having a cup of coffee while I write, or just feeling good that I did it.
Exactly. The key is to make the whole experience enjoyable.
It's amazing how something so small, like moving your stuff around or choosing a good writing prompt, can actually help you stick to a new habit.
Absolutely. And don't forget about accountability. Having someone to check in with, like a friend or a coach, can make a big difference.
Yeah, it's like having your own personal cheerleader. And speaking of staying on track, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Audiobooks Quiver, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our future in-depth summary and review. Now let's get back to the E-Myth Revisited and talk more about building a business that can work even when you're not there.
This is where the franchise prototype idea comes in. It's
Okay.
about making a system for your business that's so clear and well documented that anyone could run it.
So basically create a McDonald's, even if you're selling something totally different, like handmade jewelry or a unique service.
Exactly. Think about how McDonald's has opened thousands of restaurants all over the world.
Uh,
It's because they have a system for everything from making a Big Mac to cleaning the grill. Nothing is left up to chance.
It's crazy how a system like that can create such consistency. But where do you even begin with something like that for your own business?
Gerber says to start with documentation.
Okay.
Remember those operations manuals we talked about? Those are crucial for capturing your processes and making them repeatable.
So it's not just about having systems, it's about writing them down clearly so anyone can follow them, like a recipe that anyone can use to bake a cake.
Exactly. And those manuals should be super detailed, every step of every process, from the small stuff to the complicated stuff.
So it's like taking everything you know and putting it on paper so it can be shared and used by anyone. It sounds hard, but also kind of exciting.
It takes work, but it's worth it. When you have a clear system, you're free to focus on growing your business.
You can finally stop doing all the little things and actually work on your business, not just in it. Become a true entrepreneur, the visionary leader who's guiding the ship, not just rowing it. Doesn't the E-Myth Revisited also talk about having a vision for your business?
Absolutely. Gerber talks about defining your primary aim,
Okay.
which is basically your ultimate purpose for yourself and your business.
So it's like asking why you do what you do, what kind of impact you want to have.
Exactly.
Right.
And once you know your primary aim, you can start to develop your strategic objective, which is that big goal you want to achieve with your business.
So like an example.
Let's say your primary aim is to help women through financial education.
Okay.
Your strategic objective might be to create the best online platform for women's financial literacy, reaching millions of women all over the world.
I see. So it's like setting a destination for your business, something to guide all your decisions.
Exactly. And Gerber says that strategic objectives should be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound SMART goals.
Oh yeah, bringing it all back full circle. So you have your aim, your objective, and then what? How do you actually do it?
That's where your organizational strategy comes in.
Yeah.
That's where you decide the structure of your business, the roles, the responsibilities, the systems and processes that will get you to your objective.
So putting the right people in the right places, giving them the tools they need, and making a system that works to reach that goal.
Yeah,
Like building a machine where all the parts work together perfectly.
precisely. And Gerber emphasizes having a clear chain of command, delegating authority, and making people accountable. It's about creating a culture of ownership.
So giving people the power to do their best work and make decisions in their areas of expertise. And speaking of empowerment, don't forget to empower yourselves with knowledge by liking this video and turning on notifications for audiobooks. Quiver. We'll be back with the final part of this in-depth summary and review where we'll finish talking about the E-Myth Revisited and look at some key takeaways from all 5 of these great books.
Welcome back to our in-depth summary and review. We were talking about building a business that can really thrive even when you're not always putting out fires.
Yeah. The E-Myth Revisited wants us to think like we're building a franchise, even if we're not. It's all about that system and clarity. But it's not just the practical stuff, right? Didn't Gerber talk about the culture of a business too?
That's a great point. Gerber thinks a really successful business is more than just a machine. It needs a soul, a purpose beyond just making money. He talks about making a game out of the business.
A game. Now I'm imagining board meetings with Monopoly money.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's what he meant.
Not exactly. It's more about setting up the work so that it's engaging and meaningful for everyone.
Yeah.
There should be clear rules, challenges to overcome, and rewards for success.
So it's about making people feel motivated to contribute instead of just going through the motions.
Exactly. And those rules and challenges should be tied to the company's mission and values. It's not just about fun. It's about working together towards a goal that everyone believes in.
I can see how that would make work a lot more fulfilling for everyone.
Yeah.
It's about building a company that people are proud to be a part of.
Right. It's about creating a culture that attracts and keeps great people. And that's something we can use in any business, no matter what you do.
This has been amazing going through these 5 books. It's crazy how they all have their own unique perspectives, but they all connect in really meaningful ways.
I totally agree. Whether it's building momentum like a flywheel, using the lean startup approach, finding your blue ocean, getting those habits down, or building a business that really works, these books are full of wisdom.
I'm feeling super inspired, and I have a ton of notes. It's like a crash course in business and personal growth all at once.
The important thing is to use what we've learned. Don't just leave it in your notebook. Try these things out, see what works for you, and keep learning.
Absolutely. And don't forget, you can find more awesome in-depth summary and review on the Audiobooks Quiver YouTube channel. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out. We've got tons more to share.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of business and personal growth. I hope you got something out of it.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing those fly